When I tell you, there have been a lot of things that came in my life that have helped me become the woman that I am today. But I would have to say there is nothing that has come to be more consistent in every season of my life, to continue to change me, to better me, to be more like God than prayer. You know how prayer will come for all of that stuff that's in your heart, the stuff that is known and unknown. How prayer will lift you in those moments where you feel like, God, I've given all I have to give. I'm giving up. It'll lift you again. Or what about the times where you've made up your mind about a situation? You know, you got the whole story written out, and God will come to force you to see through new eyes, to gain a new perspective. Anybody been forced to see a new way? I want you all to know that prayer is a dangerous weapon. It is the thing that will come in to shift everything for you to see totally new. Prayer for me has been my surgeon of choice. It's been the thing that cut me many times, but it only cut me to help me. Anybody been cut by prayer? You know about that prayer. It is so important that we allow ourselves to not just know about these weapons that God has given us. You know how we'll talk about everything that pertains to life and godliness is in the Bible, but rather than when we end up in a situation where we need to find an answer, going to every person we think that knows a little ounce about Jesus, rather than going to them and not just sitting down and taking time to look into the word to see what the word has to say about it, how we'll sleep on the actual gifts that God has given us. We do the same thing with prayer. We look at it like, oh, you know, I know I'm supposed to do that. They talk about that thing, but I'm not really acquainted with that tool. Today, I want to provoke you. I want to unveil for you how powerful the gift of prayer can be. I tell you, it is life-giving. It has challenged me in the best ways, but crucified my flesh in the worst ways. It will make you better. I want you all to know that prayer is something that works. It is a tool that if you use it, it will help you live a life much more pleasing to the Father. It is our communication tool with a God that is not just sitting up there judging us, but he's there like, baby, just talk to me about the issue. I want to interrupt this area to help you be more like me. Let's take a moment to look at what the Father has to say about prayer. Our text for today, what we'll jump into, is Matthew 6, 5 through 14. I want you all to understand that prayer works. It is a weapon that will help you if you let it. The first thing that he says in verse 5 is that God makes it clear when he says, when you pray. Okay, he could have said, if you pray, but when he says, when you pray, he brings to life something that's very important, that prayer for the believer is not to be an option. It is a necessity. Did you hear me? That he took time out of this Sermon on the Mount. He could have talked about anything, but the fact that he would take the time to give the model prayer, to teach us how to effectively use the tool of prayer, it must have been something that was very important to him, right? He doesn't give us tools just for religious reason. He gives us things that will help us live life better. And this is what I want you to understand. In verse 5, we generally will skip over like the very beginning before the comma, but I want you to stop and understand that when he says when you pray, it is crucial for you to understand that prayer is a necessity. It's not an option. When you pray, how many of us find ourselves in that category where we don't recognize that prayer isn't just a law or obligation, but prayer is a necessity for life. It is God's full desire for us to look at prayer as our very oxygen. It's like the food we need, not like the speed limit where I got to get somewhere real quick. And so, yeah, you know that prayer thing, I'm supposed to do it, but I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to spend time with prayer today. It's not a law and an obligation. It is a tool, a dangerous weapon that can be used to truly help our hearts. Can we settle with the fact that it has to be a necessity for the life of the believer so that we can be changed into the image of Christ? It's not about the moments where you remember. It's about introducing him into every moment. In the beginning of verse 9, he opens up with saying, our Father who art in heaven. He talks about in verse 6 that we pray to our Father who sees us. The realization that we have an opportunity every time we go to prayer to not pray to some distant person or somebody that's untrustworthy, but that we get an opportunity to pray to a God that already sees us, that already has accepted us, that already loves us to truly free you. I tell you, for me, it made me change my whole way of living, because I had been one of the girls with the daddy issues. Any daddy issue girls in here? Yeah, I went through a lot of time where it was like, God, you know, I just want my daddy to know my favorite color. I want to be seen by him. I want him to care about what's on my mind. But when I came into the understanding that I had a Father in heaven that I could call Abba, that I could call Daddy, that would sit literally, intimately waiting for me to whisper a word, and he would send angels with charge concerning me, that he would incline his ears to me because I was the apple of his eye. I want you all to know today that you have a daddy that sees and knows everything that concerns you. And this is why when we go to prayer, we can go to prayer boldly. We can go to prayer with all the covers off, all the masks taken off. We are going to a place that is truly protected, truly sacred. We get to pray to a Father that truly cares and is intimately concerned with everything about us. It says here in verse 8, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. And so for many people, they would say, well, if he knows what we need, why do we even go to him in prayer anyway? Anybody been there? Like, is it even any point in praying if he already knows exactly what I need? Have you ever been there? I've been there. And I was praying this weekend as I was preparing for this message, and God said something that I never realized before. I knew that there were other things that you got from prayer, but the thing that he made alive was that oftentimes he knows what we need, and we think we know, but do we really know what we need? And so when you go to the Father in prayer, he absolutely knows exactly every provision that you need. But there are oftentimes we will have our bubbles bust. We'll say, Daddy, like, I need that relationship, or I want that job, and you'll get on that job and you praying like, God, get me out of here. I don't know what I got myself into. Who is this dude? And I can't continue in this relationship. He will show you time and time again, baby girl, you don't really know what you really need. You need to come to me in prayer. See, prayer is a revealer. It will show you what is truly necessary to make every crooked place straight. It will show you what you truly need. This is why, irrespective of us knowing that he knows what we need, we have to go to him in prayer. And then another big thing that I see is a lot of times we won't go in prayer because they're like, he knows what we need. And so I feel that you minimize the reality of all that goes on in prayer when you limit it to just going to God to present what you need from him. Did you know that in times where you go to God in prayer, he will literally show you stuff about you that you never knew? He will lift you from situations. He will whisper instructions that will keep you from having to go the long way around. It is so many other things to prayer that we need that causes us to have to go to him irrespective of him just knowing our needs. Anybody grateful that you get to cry out to him as Abba? I'm telling you, it changed my whole life. He won't let you down. How many times have you had your mama let you down? So it is with the Father. He is a God that's sitting up there that is intimately concerned about every situation, every circumstance that we face. He wants our hearts in prayer. This whole idea and understanding that through prayer, we can go to him with all our needs, with all our things that we need him to provide for. When he's talking about give us this day our daily bread, I want you to understand that it's not just talking about food, although we need food and we need sustenance. He's talking about our daily portion of peace, our daily portion of discernment, our daily portion of the grace that is needed to be forgiven. Does anybody need more grace? This is what God is talking about here. And where the heart check comes in and where we have to take a moment to pause is it's oftentimes very hard to let go of our will, our control, to allow God to actually provide these things. And not just provide them, but provide them in the way that he wants to. But God wants us to recognize that here is a moment for the heart check. He wants to come after all of this stuff in our heart that separate us from him. He wants to examine our hearts to take out anything that would cause us to be blocked in effective praying. This is why he takes the time to break down the Lord's Prayer so that we will understand better that it's not just some religious activity and some words that grandmama taught you, but these are principles that you can use to go forward in your Christian life with God. Can you tell somebody that prayer is a dangerous weapon? And we have to allow God to examine our hearts. I feel that we find the perfect prayer for today in Psalms 139, 23 and 24. David says, search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Anybody want to pray like David today? Search me, Lord. I know I got some stuff. I know I'm not perfect. I know there are some things that I know about and I don't know about that I need you to come in and get, because I'm tired of living this way. Like, the life that I've lived so far is cool, but I want to go a little further with God. Is that anybody's prayer today? Is that anybody's prayer today, that you want to be like David and ask God to truly search your heart? It's time for us to really allow God to examine our hearts through prayer. I want you to recognize that God will heal what you allow him to reveal. God will allow me to be healed from what I allow him to reveal. This is the need for prayer. This is the need for prayer.